Murray and Liam, hello.
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 Thank you for the warm welcome to Winchester.
You're very welcome. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Who are you?
Well, my name is Mary O'Brien, and I arrived here in Winchester in 1982.
My name's Liam. We're married. We're both from Scotland originally. Moved down to Winchester in 82, as Mary says. Been here ever since.
Who did you encounter from iSky? Was it Guru Durham? Was it Judy Fraser or Darryl O'Keefe?
It was Judy Fraser, and we encountered Judy Fraser at the beginning of the 1990s. Judy was running courses called Second Aid, and I had someone who used to come to the house, and she was an author, and she used to say, "What do you think of this plot?" in a big voice. And then one day she came and she said, "What do you think of this plot?" Very calm. And I said to her, "What's happened to you?" And she said, "I've just been on a course called Second Aid." And I said to her at that point, "I have to do it." And so I did the first part of Second Aid with a facilitator called Jill. And then quite soon after it, did the second part. And that's where I met Judy. And I remember the moment I met her. She was standing looking over somebody's shoulder in a room, and I was walking past the room, and I looked in, and that was it. That was the connection, and it was at that moment, and that's been it since.
I met Judy eventually because Mary got involved with Judy's Second Aid courses, and I'm pretty sure that it was probably the mid-90s,
Yeah.
where Judy came down to Winchester to do some one-day courses, and that was when I met her, when she came down to Winchester. I hadn't been involved in anything like that before, so and I was kind of dragged along, really.
So from meeting her, how did the relationship continue?
I met Judy on part 2 of Second Aid, and I now understand part 2 of Second Aid had a lot of sound. A lot of it was about the vibration and sound, and it was a very profound meeting. Part 1 had been very profound for me, and part 2 was also, and I felt very comfortable with Judy. I felt very safe and secure with Judy. And so after doing part 2 with Judy, I then did part 3. And there's quite a gap between the two. And at part 3, Judy asked me if I'd like to train with her. And I was absolutely delighted. And that was what then began to happen after that. I began to train with Judy in facilitating the first part of Second Aid.
And what do you do now?
Now I'm still a therapist. I was a therapist then, but I was a teacher then of complementary health. Now I don't do that. I'm still a therapist 1 day a week, and the rest of the time I run choirs. And so I'm a choir person now, and working with, rather than on a one-to-one, with a whole community of people. And it's wonderful, just wonderful.
And did that come about as a result of being on the course with Judy? How did that come about?
This is quite interesting because I started training with Judy, and I was doing my work as a teacher, therapist teacher. And Judy would come here and do courses here as well. And I facilitated my first part 1 of Second Aid towards the mid to late 90s. And then in 1998, I had a very serious road traffic accident, and I broke my neck. And initially in hospital, there was no signals in my limbs. I knew I was paralysed. I was teaching anatomy and physiology, and I was teaching complementary health, and I was teaching about the body and the inner connection with all that is, and I was teaching about all that. And suddenly I was in a life or death situation, and everything that I'd been involved in, all my training was in place. And I was absolutely, although the trauma was immense, everything was in place. That connection between the head and the heart, the connection, that was in place. That wasn't skewed at all. It was absolutely in place, and I came through. And Judy was in Canada when it happened, and when she came back from Canada and came to us and was a great support to us throughout that whole experience. It really took me a number of years to fully recover from the trauma of that. So there was that in between, and that it wasn't an ongoing training like that. Everything that happened was the training. The training is that. That is the training, and that training was in place for that experience, and that experience is part of the training. Not that you need that training. You don't need that experience for the training. You do understand. It's just that I felt if there was a time in my life that I could come through major trauma, it was at that point in time, because I felt aligned, and that had been my training.
And how do you see your work going into the future?
Well, after that experience, it's an interesting experience, because my limbs were out for a very short period of time, and surgery brought me back.
Yeah.
The signal came back after they put the weights in my head, but surgery brought me back.
Yes.
Yeah, surgery brought me back. And so for a long time I wasn't doing anything, because I needed help rather than helping others. And so it brought me back to being very, very peaceful and quiet. And as part of my recovery, I started to sound. And I found that immensely powerful. And then gradually I came back to work, very gradually over the years. I came back to working again and retraining and working again. And then the sound of the whole experience was really powerful. The sound was the thing about this experience for me, the whole sound thing. And I'm predominantly auditory, and the sound was immense. And over the years, I've always sung, and I've always played music, and I've always been part of music. But for me, from my family, music would never be a career, it'd be a hobby. And the sound of everything began to increase. Everything sound-wise was increasing for me. And then I decided to go for singing lessons. And in my singing lessons, I found this girl who ran a choir, and she invited me to her choir. And I went to her choir. And the rest is complete history. I now run her choir, and I now have another 2 choirs. I've got 3 choirs. And all that I've ever been involved in is present now. You know, music has always been part of me, singing's always been part of me. That which is greater than me, that's the sound that moves through me. That's what I have always understood. And that's where I find myself. And now when I stand up to conduct the choir, I am completely in awe of this experience of waving my arms in front of them to beat time I'm beating time with my hands, and I watch them move, and I'm just in awe. And that's where I find myself now, in total awe of the experience of beating time. And so I remember not long after I was recovering, and I'd written about the experience, and I remember going along to something and saying to Judy, I'd been singing a lot, and she said, would you like to sing for us? Butterfly. Would you like to sing for us? And I stood up and I sang at a second date event. And I remember thinking, it was really lovely to be invited to do that, never knowing what was ahead, not knowing that this would become part of what am I doing now? That I'd be doing music and song and working with the community of voices and sound. Yeah.
I guess when we look back at it, the last 30 years or so is kind of divided into pre-accident and post-accident.
Definitely.
Because it's such an impact on our lives. And I can see 3 phases that you went through, particularly, but I was part of it. Mm-hmm. And the first phase was pre-accident, which was where you were still searching for things, and you came across second aid, and you dabbled in quite a few things.
Before that. Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because I wasn't really into that stuff, not really. And I was quite anxious when I met Judy, thinking, oh no, is this, where am I going to have to park a broomstick, I think I said. Cruel. But, and then when I met her, I immediately liked her. And one of the things that struck me about her straight away was how down to earth she is, and how spiritual she is, but real, not airy-fairy. No. And that appealed to me. And I used to have a little phrase that sounds a bit cruel, but I used to say to Mary, if I can take them to the pub and feel comfortable with them, then it's okay. And I could always take Judy to the pub and feel comfortable. So the first phase was Mary started doing the training. I kind of got involved with the one-day things. And then the accident happened. I'm not great on dates, but then the accident happened and the whole world turned upside down at that point. And Judy was great. She was on the phone, even though she was abroad, she was on the phone, and she gave me some really practical advice about how to try and hold the space for Mary when she was in this trauma. I was in trauma as well, right enough, I think, when I look back. And it was great practical advice, not airy-fairy, real down-to-earth practical advice. And then after the accident was a long period of recovery for Mary and for me.
And for you, yeah.
And Judy was always there, and Judy's philosophy and training was part of Mary's recovery, even though she'd done a lot of the work beforehand. And looking back, I don't think there's any way Mary would have got through that traumatic experience without the training and the knowledge that she had from before the accident. And then that was phase 2 was recovery from the accident, and you could argue when that finished, probably it's not straightforward. Now I'm okay. It took a while. And then phase 3 was kind of finding your feet again, really, with the talents that you've got and the training that you've got and the knowledge that you've got, and now you've ended up with doing a number of things, but one of the main things is this choir work, which is real community work, and you can see the benefit it has. You can just see it, and it's not overt. It's kind of by stealth, I suppose. So you're doing all this work and you can see that people are really benefiting from it. and you do get a lot of feedback from that. And you sometimes don't get feedback, but you know it's happening.
I know it's happening, yeah.
So you've kind of, when you mentioned earlier on about a niche, you really have found your niche.
I have, yeah,
You know?
I have.
And a lot of these paths have, well, it's only when you look back you think, no, a lot of these paths have kind of converged and led to
all
this.
the threads that you see that have been woven.
That's right.
You know, and when you're in the process of weaving threads, you can't see the picture.
No.
You know, you start with a blank canvas, you don't see it, and you're not even aware that you're weaving. You're building a picture. You're not even aware of it at the time. You just go on and you do what you do.
Yeah.
Which is life. You do everyday things in life, and it builds a picture.
Yeah.
And you just keep that connection, and you just get on with it.
If people would like to get in touch with you regarding your work, how can they do that?
For choirs in the local area, there's winchesterfusionchoir.co.uk and there's eastleighfusionchoir.co.uk. Those are the two websites. Or else there's Mary O'Brien 007 at gmail.com or fusionchoirs@gmail.com. I still work with young people. I work one afternoon a week with young people, assisting them to be more comfortable being uncomfortable in life. So I'm a relaxation therapist just for that one afternoon a week. And that's at Core Wellbeing.co.uk.
Mary and Liam, thank you ever so much.
Ash, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.